Austin here, welcome to the video, and today I'm going to be going over my fitness journey from being skinny fat and looking and being more fit. And so just a little bit about myself. I've been lifting since I was 13. I had no real direction up until about 5 years ago. It was always off and on. I had no real programming. I didn't know a thing about dieting and all that. I would just eat whatever the hell I wanted. Didn't worry about protein, didn't worry about calories. My training basically consisted of just benching and no legs and nothing else. I just did whatever my friends did in the gym, and I felt like that was enough. This was me in high school, and then this is me throughout the years, bulking and cutting and trying all those fad diets. And then this is me here today. And here are my top tips to go from being skinny fat to achieving a more lean and muscular physique that most people want. And the first tip that I'm going to be going over is diet. And for me, throughout the years, I really believed in the whole bulking and cutting myth. Bulk is when you're in a gaining phase and you eat a bunch of calories in hopes of building more muscle, and you also put on a lot of fat during that time. And then your cutting phase, which is an attempt to cut all that fat that you put on in your bulking phase so you can reveal a more lean and muscular physique. However, I learned that this was not true at all. I would find myself eating a bunch of calories, putting on a bunch of fat, and looking bigger, but when I cut back down to being leaner, I found that I gained little to no muscle at all. It didn't really help, and I found myself just in this never-ending cycle of bulking and cutting and not getting the results I wanted. Instead, I recommend being in a small calorie deficit where you're losing 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. Or you can follow an easier method, which I recommend, is being in a calorie deficit of 300 to 500 calories a day, and that should put you in a nice and slow, steady weight loss. The reason for this being is that when you're taking a slow and steady approach to weight loss, you will be able to not only lose the weight, but be able to keep the weight off. If you try to lose a ton of weight at once, it will backfire, and you will more than likely gain that weight after your diet because you were being way too restrictive. If you take it slow and steady, you're able to enjoy the foods that you want, not being too restrictive, and your diet will be more maintainable long term, and therefore you will be able to make it a lifestyle change where you're able to keep the weight off long term. Another part of the diet that people need to pay attention to is protein intake. Protein not only helps you build muscle, but it is also the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it keeps you fuller longer compared to eating the same amount of calories worth of carbohydrates or fat. Protein is also the most thermogenic macronutrient, meaning that it takes more energy to convert protein to energy than it does for converting carbs and fats. So another component of diet that I want to talk about is counting calories and not macros. This is kind of counterintuitive to what I just talked about, but focusing on overall calorie intake is a lot more easier and less stressful than counting each individual macro. The only macronutrient that you should be paying attention to is protein. I recommend getting about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and that is more than enough for your muscle building needs. And so the rest should be carbs and fats. However you want to distribute that, however you want to eat, is up to you. I don't recommend following a specific intake for carbohydrates or fats. Just don't eat none of either. The reason for this being is that I've watched a lot of fitness YouTubers. They'll follow each individual macro, and at the end of the day, they'll have like 10 carb, 2 fat, and like 4 protein left, and then they'll eat some weird combination of food just to try and hit those individual numbers, and that is just unrealistic and way too meticulous for the average person to do. So the second tip that I want to cover is weight training. Of course, you want to incorporate some kind of weight or resistance training to build muscle. Muscle not only obviously helps you look more muscular, but it also helps you burn more calories in the long run. The more muscle that you have, the more metabolically active that your body is going to be. Person A who has 50 pounds of muscle versus person B who only has 10 pounds of muscle. Person A is going to be able to have a higher basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories that your body burns just trying to keep itself alive. Another component of weight training that I want to address is progressive overload. This is the amount of work that your body has to do and then progressively increasing that amount of work. This can be done by increasing the amount of weight that you're lifting, the amount of sets, the amount of reps, increasing the time of the tension, slowing down the reps, decreasing your rest time, or even just lifting the same amount of weight and everything, but with better form. Another component I want to talk about, and this kind of ties the weight training and the diet in together, is that it is possible to build muscle in a calorie deficit. Contrary to what you hear all over the fitness industry, you do not have to be in a bulk to gain muscle, and it is completely possible to do it in a calorie deficit. The three things that you need to build muscle is adequate protein, adequate amount of energy, and a training stimulus. And protein I already addressed. You need to be eating enough protein in your diet, which can be easily achieved by eating that 1 gram per pound of body weight. Stimulus is obviously by either weight training or some kind of resistance training where you increase the demands that your muscles have to work. And for the last one, energy, I think, is the biggest myth out there. I think that's the reason why people believe that you have to be in energy surplus in order to build muscle. However, your body can actually use the energy from your fat to build that muscle. If you have an excess amount of fat, then you are able to build muscle in a calorie deficit. Another thing that I want to talk about is definitely implementing a cardio routine. There's a myth that cardio kills gains. That is completely false. Yes, cardio will burn extra calories, but it will only impede the muscle building process if you are eating not enough or if you're going way overkill on the amount of cardio. Now, the reasons that cardio will help is that it will increase your cardiovascular endurance, which means you are able to better recover during your training sessions. For me personally, I found that cardio improved my resting times between my sets. Before implementing a cardio routine, I would take about 4 to 5 minutes between sets. However, after cardio, I actually halved my resting times, and I felt that I was better able to recover faster, and therefore you don't have to spend hours in the gym just dedicated to your rest time. And also it will increase your work capacity. If you don't have to rest as long, that means you can go harder each set. And cardio can be done in so many forms other than the treadmill. Personally, I like walking and the Stairmaster. However, you can use any cardio machine that you want in the gym. You can even play sports. As long as you get your heart rate up for an extended period of time, that counts as cardio. And the last thing I want to emphasize is having patience, because I've been lifting for 10 years, but I've only gotten progress for the past 5. So I've definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way, and these are the best tips that I can give to definitely help you streamline that process and not make those same mistakes that I did. Building muscle is a long and tedious journey, and you have to be in it for the long haul. And you definitely might not see progress within the first few months, but over years upon years of progress, you will definitely see the results. And I believe that slow progress is equivalent to permanent progress, because this is going to be a lifestyle change. And if you're able to make slow and steady changes, you're able to make those changes permanent and long-term, and you're going to be able to keep those habits and build better progress that way. However, there will be times where you feel like you've messed up along the process, and this is all part of the journey. And this is all about making long-term changes and not quick fixes. And failure from time to time is okay, as long as you learn from those mistakes. And remember, the only type of failure that is not acceptable is the failure to try. As long as you put 110% effort into it, you will get the results that you want. Don't forget to leave a like if you guys found this video helpful. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.